You ever reach that point in your life where you finally exhale? You know, that specific moment when the noise of the world finally dies down and you think, okay, I made it. This is my slice of quiet. Only to have some platinum blonde nightmare in a luxury SUV try to snatch it away from you. In the most arrogant, boneheaded way possible. I'm talking about the kind of person who looks at a mountain range and wonders why it isn't color coordinated with her patio furniture. That's exactly what happened to me, Elias Thorne, and let me tell you, if you think you've dealt with bad neighbors, wait until you hear about the woman who tried to steal my land by literally moving the earth, only to find out she was digging her own grave. 5 years ago, I built what I affectionately call my fortress of solitude, on 9 sprawling acres of Ironwood Ridge, just on the edge of the high desert in Nevada, a place where the air is so thin and crisp it feels like drinking ice water. I'd spent 25 years as a field agent for the Bureau of Land Management, chasing cattle rustlers, dealing with illegal mining operations, and arguing with developers who thought a bribe was a valid form of zoning permit. That job eats your soul by the teaspoon, dealing with the worst kind of bureaucracy and greed. So when I finally turned in my badge and my government-issued truck, I swore I was done with lines, I was done with disputes, and I was done with people who think the rules don't apply to them. I didn't buy Ironwood Ridge on a whim. You have to understand that about me. I don't do whims. I'm a surveyor at heart, a man who finds comfort in the absolute truth of coordinates. I tore that property apart on paper before I ever put a boot on the dirt. I pulled historical surveys from the 1950s. I ran LiDAR scans. I cross-referenced 3 different county databases. When I signed that deed, I knew every rock, every lizard, and every sagebrush bush that belonged to me. The title was cleaner than a surgical theater. I built a modest place, reclaimed timber, big windows facing the sunset, and a wraparound porch where I planned to spend the next 30 years doing absolutely nothing but drinking black coffee and watching the storms roll in for a year. It was perfect, just me and the coyotes singing me to sleep. But paradise has a way of attracting parasites, and mine arrived in the form of a brand new, gated community called Serenity Heights that popped up on my eastern border like a bad rash. And ruling over this kingdom of beige stucco and mandatory lawn care was a woman named Cynthia Vane. I'll never forget the first time we met. I was out front, greasing the axles on my old tractor, covered in grease and sweat, happy as a clam. I heard the crunch of gravel and looked up to see a pearl-white G-Wagon idling in my driveway, looking completely out of place against the backdrop of red rocks and dust. Out stepped Cynthia. She was wearing white pants in the desert, which tells you everything you need to know about her judgment, and oversized sunglasses that made her look like a praying mantis. She was carrying a clipboard, weaponized like a shield. "Good morning," she chirped, a sound that set my teeth on edge. "I'm Cynthia Vane, president of the Serenity Heights Homeowners Association. We haven't formally met." I wiped my hands on a rag and didn't get up. "That's because I don't live in Serenity Heights, ma'am. I live on Ironwood Ridge." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was just a baring of teeth. "Oh, we know, Mr. Thorne, but we believe in a holistic community aesthetic. Visual harmony benefits everyone's property value, don't you agree?" She reached into her bag and placed a cream-colored envelope on my fence post, treating the wood like it was infected. "Just a friendly note about your firewood stack. It's visible from the upper terrace of our community clubhouse. It's a bit rustic." I watched her drive away, took the envelope, and used it to light my charcoal grill that night. I thought that would be the end of it. Just a city person trying to flex muscles she didn't have. I was wrong. That letter was just the opening shot. Over the next 6 months, the letters kept coming. My truck was too old. My deck stain was too dark. My exterior lighting was aggressive. I ignored them all because, legally, she had as much authority over me as the Wizard of Oz. I wasn't in her HOA. I wasn't bound by her covenants, and I certainly didn't care about her visual harmony. But predators escalate when you ignore them. One crisp October morning, the tone changed. A process server, a sweaty kid who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, handed me a thick packet. "You've been served, sir. Notice of encroachment and demand for remediation." I opened it right there in the driveway. It wasn't a complaint about my firewood anymore. It was a map, a crude, digital map with a bright red line drawn right through my workshop and the edge of my porch. The attached letter claimed that the Dalton residence, she couldn't even get my name right, encroaches 32 feet into the designated common area of Serenity Heights Phase 2. She was accusing me of building my house on her land. The sheer audacity of it actually made me laugh out loud, a dry, dusty chuckle that spooked a crow off the telephone wire. I walked straight over to the boundary line, where Cynthia was conveniently supervising a landscaping crew. She saw the paper in my hand and smirked. "I see you got our notice, Elias," she said, crossing her arms. "We tried to be neighborly. Now we need that land back. You have 30 days to remove the structures, or we will remove them for you and bill you for the labor." I found the first pin, or at least where the pin was supposed to be. The GPS chirped, telling me I was standing on the coordinate, but the ground was bare. I looked around. About 6 feet to the north, 6 feet into my property, there was a patch of disturbed earth, carefully covered with pine needles. I kicked it away. There was the yellow cap of a survey marker. I checked the next one, moved, and the next, moved. Someone had physically pulled the steel survey pins out of the ground and hammered them back and closer to my house. They were trying to gaslight me using the earth itself. They were trying to steal nearly an acre of my land by literally moving the goalposts. But here's where Cynthia made her fatal mistake. She thought I was just some old retired guy. She didn't know that I have friends who look at dirt for a living. I called my old buddy, Surveyor Pete. Pete is a man who looks like a prospector from the 1800s, but operates a drone fleet that can map a gnat's eyelash from 400 feet up. "Pete," I said, "I need a full forensic survey, and I need it yesterday." Pete came out the next morning. He didn't just bring a total station. He brought the works, ground-penetrating radar, magnetometers, the whole 9 yards. We spent 6 hours walking the line. When we got to the ridge overlooking the valley, Pete stopped. He was looking at his tablet, then at the ground, then back at his tablet. He let out a low whistle. "Elias," Pete said, tipping his hat back. "You know how she says you're encroaching 32 feet onto her land?" "Yeah, well, looking at the magnetic signatures of the original iron pins, the ones buried 2 feet down that she didn't find, it's actually the other way around." Pete pointed down the hill. "See that infinity pool she just put in? The one with the waterfall? And that 3-car detached garage where she keeps that G-Wagon?" I looked. It was a massive, gaudy structure glistening in the sun. "That's not on HOA land," Pete grinned, a smile full of gold crowns. "That's sitting smack dab on your land, about 0.8 acres of it. She didn't just move the pins to steal your yard. She moved them to cover up the fact that she built $1 million complex on property she doesn't own." I stared at that pool. I stared at that garage, and I felt a calm wash over me. It wasn't peace. It was the calm of a hunter who just watched the trap door slam shut. She hadn't just made a mistake. She had committed fraud. She had tampered with federal benchmarks, and she had built her castle on my kingdom. "Pete," I said, clapping him on the shoulder, "print it out. Print everything. We're going to need a lot of paper." But I wasn't going to just sue her. No, that would be too easy. Cynthia wanted a war. She wanted to talk about visual harmony. I was going to give her a lesson in property rights that she would feel in her bone marrow. I went back inside, poured myself a drink, and started to plan. I needed more than just the survey. I needed to prove intent. That night, I got an email. It was from a guy named Jim, a quiet fellow who lived in Serenity Heights, right on the edge. He walked his dog past my place every night. The subject line just said, "I saw what they did." Attached was a grainy video file from a trail camera Jim used to watch for deer. It was time-stamped 3 months ago, 2 in the morning. In the video, 2 men in dark clothes were digging at the property line, and standing right behind them, holding a flashlight and pointing, was a woman with platinum blonde hair. You could hear her voice, tinny but clear on the recording. "Move it another 5 feet. He's an old man. He won't notice." I need that clearance for the pool deck. I sat back in my chair and watched it 3 times. She didn't just build by accident. She engineered the theft. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew exactly what she was doing, and that video was the nail in the coffin. But I wasn't ready to bury her just yet. I wanted to let her dig the hole a little deeper. You see, when you're dealing with a narcissist like Cynthia, you don't interrupt them when they're grandstanding. You hand them a microphone and wait for them to incriminate themselves. I started quietly. I filed an official encroachment dispute with the county clerk, attaching Pete's certified findings. The clerk, a woman named Barbara who I'd known for 20 years, looked at the maps and raised an eyebrow. "Rick," she whispered, "is this for real? She built a garage on your land? Permits and all?" I smiled. "Though I bet if you check, those permits rely on a survey she commissioned herself." Barbara tapped her keyboard. "They sure do. A survey from a company that went out of business 2 weeks after they filed it." The pieces were falling into place, but I needed the public court of opinion on my side too, because Cynthia thrived on her reputation as the Queen of the Heights. I created a simple Facebook post. No names, just a picture of a generic property line and a caption, "Pro tip, before you accuse your neighbor of stealing your land, make sure your own infinity pool isn't sitting in his backyard." Karma has a GPS. It went viral locally within hours. The Serenity Heights gossip mill caught fire. I heard from Jim that Cynthia was frantic, deleting comments, threatening to sue people for libel on the HOA message board. She was scared, but arrogance is a powerful drug, and she decided to double down. 2 days later, on a Sunday afternoon, I heard music, loud, thumping bass. I walked out to my back deck and looked down the hill. Cynthia was hosting a party, a massive barbecue, caterers, white tents, a DJ. And where were they set up? Right on the disputed land. Right on my land, next to the illegal pool. It was a power move. She was showing the neighborhood that she owned this ground, laws be damned. I watched for a minute, sipping my coffee. Then I picked up my phone and called the sheriff. "Sheriff Miller," I said, "it's Elias. I'd like to report a mass trespassing event on my property, and I think you might want to bring a few cars." 20 minutes later, the cavalcade arrived. Dust swirled as 3 sheriff's cruisers rolled up the private road of Serenity Heights. The music stopped. Guests froze with shrimp cocktails halfway to their mouths. I walked down the hill to meet them at the real property line. Cynthia stormed over to the deputies, her face flushed with wine and indignation. "What is the meaning of this? This is a private community event." Deputy Miller, a man of few words and zero patience for nonsense, held up a tablet with the county GIS map loaded. "Ma'am, according to the county recorder and a verified forensic survey, you and your guests are currently trespassing on Mr. Thorne's private property. He has asked that you vacate immediately. That is ridiculous." Cynthia shrieked, and I mean she shrieked. "This is HOA common ground. We have a survey." "A fraudulent one," I said, stepping forward. "We have the video, Cynthia. Jim's trail cam, the one that caught you moving the pins at 2 a.m. Her face went from red to a ghostly, pale white. The silence that fell over that party was heavier than lead. Every neighbor, every friend she was trying to impress, turned to look at her, everybody out. Miller ordered, "Now, or we start writing tickets." It was a beautiful exodus. The caterers packing up grilled salmon, the DJ unplugging his speakers, the guests shuffling away, whispering. Cynthia stood alone by her illegal pool, looking like a captain whose ship had just evaporated. "You'll regret this," she hissed at me. "I have lawyers who will bury you. Save your money," I told her. "You're going to need it for the demolition crew." The court hearing was 6 weeks later, and it was the hottest ticket in town. Cynthia's lawyer was a slick guy from the city who clearly charged by the syllable. He tried to argue adverse possession. He tried to argue good faith mistake. He tried to blame the contractor. When it was my turn, I didn't say much. I just laid it out. The original 1982 survey, Pete's forensic analysis, the video of her moving the pins, and then the kicker, a voicemail she had left for the contractor, which he had happily provided to us after she refused to pay him. The courtroom hushed as her voice played over the speakers. "I don't care where the line is, Bob. Just pour the concrete. If he complains, we'll bury him in paperwork until he dies. He's just a lonely old man. Nobody will miss him. The judge." An older woman named Justice Halloway, who had zero tolerance for bullies, looked at Cynthia over her spectacles. The look she gave her could have frozen whiskey. Double quotes Mrs. Vane, the judge said, her voice quiet and terrifying. In my 30 years on the bench, I have rarely seen such a calculated, malicious attempt to defraud a neighbor. You didn't just steal land. You tried to weaponize the legal system against a man who served